steps a 4'9", 90-pound human. Its arms are long, its fingers curve like hooks, and its head is tiny, housing a brain half the size of yours. It looks at you with a strange mix of ape-like and human-like features, as if evolution couldn't quite decide what direction it was going in. Congratulations, you've just met Homo naledi, the human species that really shouldn't exist. For centuries, the story of human evolution has been told like a neat ladder. One species leads to the next. More advanced, more intelligent, more like us. But the discovery of Homo naledi shattered that picture. These bizarre relatives lived at the same time as our ancestors, yet carried traits so primitive they looked like they had stepped straight out of the distant past. They were tiny, strange, and mysterious, and their very existence makes scientists wonder just how weird and messy human evolution truly was. In 2015, researchers exploring the Rising Star Cave system in South Africa stumbled upon something extraordinary. The cave itself was a nightmare. Tight passages, vertical drops, and spaces so narrow only very thin cavers could even fit through. But inside, they found treasure. Over 1,500 bone fragments belonging to at least 15 individuals of a previously unknown species of human. This wasn't just a random jawbone or a cracked skull. It was a complete lineup. Men, women, and children, all astonishingly well preserved. The dating shocked researchers even more. These remains were not ancient in the sense of millions of years. Instead, they were only between 335,000 and 236,000 years old. That places them squarely in the same time period when Homo sapiens, us, were emerging. In other words, while our direct ancestors were taking their first steps as a species, Homo naledi was already climbing trees and hiding out in caves just down the evolutionary street. Physically, Homo naledi was strikingly small. Averaging just 4 feet 9 inches in height and weighing under 90 pounds, they were about the size of a modern 12-year-old child. To put it bluntly, they were shorter than Danny DeVito and lighter than a golden retriever. But their appearance was even stranger. Their hands were especially baffling. The wrists and thumbs looked modern, like ours, good for gripping tools. But the fingers? Long, curved, and ape-like, perfect for climbing trees. Their rib cages, shoulders, and pelvises also looked primitive, echoing much earlier humans. Yet their legs told a different story. Their hips, knees, and tibias showed they were strong bipeds, capable of walking upright for long distances just like us. It was as if evolution had taken a bunch of features from the past and future, tossed them in a blender, and poured out Homo naledi. If their bodies were confusing, their teeth were downright odd. They were unusually small but had thick enamel, unlike the trend in most other human species. Their molars resembled those of much earlier hominins, making their jaws look like a relic from the past. And what they did with those teeth wasn't glamorous. Evidence suggests they were chewing on gritty underground foods like raw tubers, basically dirty root vegetables pulled from the soil. This diet left their teeth worn and battered, adding dental misery to their already tough lives. Perhaps the most shocking detail was their brain size. At only 465 to 610 cubic centimeters, it was about half the size of a modern human brain, and closer to that of an infant. By every evolutionary rulebook, this should have made them unintelligent. But here's the twist. The structure of their brains looked remarkably modern. Their frontal lobes and temporal lobes resembled those of later humans, like Neanderthals and even us. This raised unsettling questions. Could these small-brained humans have been smarter than they looked? Could they talk, organize, maybe even plan? We have no direct evidence. They left no tools, no carvings, no artifacts, but their brain anatomy hints they might have been more capable than their size suggests. The Rising Star Cave adds another mystery. How did so many Homo naledi end up in such an inaccessible chamber? Scientists have 3 main theories. First, maybe they simply fell in. Unlucky, but possible. Second, Perhaps predators dragged them there, although no predator bones were found. The third theory is the most chilling. They might have put themselves there. That is, they may have deliberately placed their dead inside the cave. If true, this would mean Homo naledi practiced burial rituals hundreds of thousands of years before modern humans. It would mean that these tiny, small-brained cousins invented funerals before we did. Imagine creatures with brains the size of grapefruits, carefully hiding their dead in a pitch-black cave. If accurate, it would rewrite the history of human intelligence and culture. The trouble is, no one really knows where Homo naledi belongs on the human family tree. Some scientists argue they branched off early, millions of years before us, and survived as a relic species. Others think they were a hybrid, the product of humans mixing with earlier ancestors. Still others suggest they were closely related to Homo erectus or Homo heidelbergensis. The truth? They are an evolutionary enigma. They look both old and new at the same time, and no one can quite explain how. That's why they're often called the human species that shouldn't exist. Regardless of their origins, life for Homo naledi was brutal. The climate of South Africa was unpredictable, swinging from burning summers to freezing winters. Their small bodies made it hard to conserve heat, and many skeletons show signs of disease, malnutrition, and childhood stress. Predators added to their woes. Lions, leopards, and hyenas roamed the landscape, and Homo naledi, tiny and light, would have made easy prey. The only thing that may have saved them was geography. The area around Rising Star Cave was rugged and harsh, so predators often preferred easier hunting grounds elsewhere. In a way, Homo naledi survived in a neighborhood no one else wanted. Despite their adaptability, Homo naledi didn't last. Their known existence covers only about 100,000 years, a blink of an eye, compared to other human species. Harsh climates, competition with other humans, and their small size may all have contributed to their disappearance. But for a time, they coexisted with our own ancestors. Imagine early Homo sapiens encountering Homo naledi in the wild. On one side, taller, tool-using, organized hunters. On the other, small-bodied climbers with curved fingers and eerie intelligence. It must have been a surreal moment in prehistory. So what does Homo naledi teach us? They were a reminder that evolution is messy. Humanity wasn't a straight line toward greatness, but a tangle of branches, dead ends, and surprises. Some of our cousins were bigger, scarier, or stranger, and yet we survived while they did not. Why? Because our species wasn't just smart, we were dangerous. We adapted, organized, created tools, and reshaped the environment. Homo naledi may have been strange and fascinating, but in the end, the scariest predator on the planet wasn't them. It was us. The story of Homo naledi isn't just about a bizarre species that shouldn't exist. It's about how survival favors not just the strong or the clever, but those who can outlast the chaos of nature. And in that sense, the real monster that haunted prehistory, the one that outlived all the others, was humanity itself.